and welcome to this week's episode of Blender for Beginners. In this week's episode we're going to be looking at lighting and lamps and how we can use lighting and lamps to create mood in our game scenes and our levels and our renders. Okay, so the first thing to know is where the lamps are located in Blender. If you've got the newer version, you find them under the Create tab over here, and you'll see there's a little lamp subsection with the 5 types of lamps. If you're using the older version of Blender, there should be an option on the top taskbar that says Add, and when you open that up you should see a section that says Lamp with the different lamps within them. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to work through the 5 types of lamps and look at how they're different. So the first thing we've got is, at the minute I've got no lamp within my scene. I've only got 3 objects, I've got a floor, and I've got my camera over here. And if I go to View, Cameras, an active camera, I go to my camera view, which is what I'm going to use to start with. The first one we're going to look at is the point light. Click that and I'll add that in. When you open up a new scene in Blender, by default it's always got the point light in. The best way to think of the point light is it's like a light bulb. It's an omnidirectional light, which means that the light itself, the light itself casts light out in all different directions at once, like a light bulb was. So if we have a look, if we go into our renders, and we'll just quickly go into the rendered view, and there we go, we can see that's the omnidirectional light there, and we can see how it's lit up the scene. If you notice, around the objects there's no shadows at the minute. There's shadows on them, but they're not casting shadows onto the other objects around them. That's because if we go over to the right hand side of the screen, we've got our lamp tab in the properties, and we'll see underneath there we've got at the bottom there's a shadow option that says no shadow or ray shadow. If we've got no shadow selected, objects won't cast shadows onto other things around them. They will have shadows on themselves, but they won't cast them onto the floor or other objects. If we click ray shadow, you'll quickly see that now each object is casting shadows out from itself onto other objects. I'm going to click no shadow because that'll make it easier for me to work in Blender. There's other options underneath the lamp tab. We've got a preview which will show us what the light looks like. We've got the lamp's colour. See this white bar here? I'm going to come out of my render view. We've got the lamp's colour here. If I double click that, we can change the colour of the light that it's emitting, yellow, blue, or white, which is pretty standard light. Quickly change that to blue, and we'll have a quick look and see what the difference is. And there we go, we can see everything's got a nice blue tint, as if it's under a blue coloured light. We've got the energy, which if I drag the slider bar across there, we'll see that the energy affects how bright the lamp is. So we can see in the preview it's changing it, or how dim it is. If we go below 1, 1's the standard setting for lamps. We've also got the distance of the light. That affects how near or far from the lamp it is before the light starts to dim and fall off into shadow and darkness. So the more that is, the more of your scene will be lit up. Okay, so the point light, it's like a light bulb. It's omnidirectional. It casts light in all different directions at once. We can use shadows and we can change the energy and colour. If we want to delete a lamp, make sure that we've got the lamp selected in our toolbar at the top here, and go to your tools on the left hand side and click delete. So there we go. Let's have a look at the next lamp, which is the sun lamp. I'll click and add sun, and I'll drag it up. It doesn't really matter where the sun lamp is in the scene, because the sun lamp is like the sun in the sky. It casts a uniform light across the scene. If we go into rendered, we'll see. There we go, there's our sun lamp, and everything's lit up, perfectly lit up, evenly. So, just like the sun in the sky. Once again, we've got the option to change the colour under the lamp settings, how bright it is, and also to add shadow if we want. So tick grey shadow, we'll just quickly see. There we go, we can see that it's added shadows beneath now. And we'll come back out of that. And once again, to delete that, we go into the tools and click the delete button. The next lamp we're going to look at is my personal favourite, and that's the spot lamp. Okay, this is just like a spotlight like you'd normally get. The main difference between the spot and the other types of lamp we've looked at so far is that instead of being omnidirectional, which is where light goes out in all different directions at once, the spotlight only casts light inside the cone. So we can see here there's a dotted orange line coming down from the lamp itself, and that means that light will only be within this cone. So if we have a quick look at a rendered image of that, we go, we can see the cone on the floor, so we can see exactly where the light is, and outside of that cone there's no light. Now what we can do is, if we wanted to, we could soften the edges of that cone of light so that instead of being quite a hard black line, it's much more soft, and the fall off's more kind of, you can see the fall off much more. And we can do this by going down in the lamp settings to the bottom where we've got spot shape. If we open that up, we'll see we've got the blend option now. If we increase the blend, that's what affects how kind of soft the outlines of the cone are, and we can see now they're much softer. There we go. So if I drag that, oh no, I'm in the animation toolbar there. Another thing we can do, if I come back out of this to save my computer's processor, is we can also change the shape of the cone from a cone shape to a square shape. Say it was a square box light you had above it in the game level. Let's simulate that effect, and we can now see that the lamp is casting a square shape of light. Come back out there. And we can also add in a halo. Now a halo is where not only are we lighting up things that are on the floor, but also the cone itself is lit up as if particles of moisture in the air were being lit up. So if I tick the halo option there, and then we look back, we can see that the cone itself is lit up now. You can change the intensity of that cone by dragging down on the intensity toolbar here, and you can see it gives it a much more moody and atmospheric look. If we come back out, we've got the other options that the lights add, so we can have it with no shadow or with ray shadow. This one we can also have a buffer shadow, and we've also got the colour of the lamp over here as normal, and we can also change the energy, so how bright or how dim that lamp is as well, by using the slider bar there. One other thing you can do with the spot lamp is to change the size of the cone. So under spot shape at the bottom you've got size, and that's in degrees, so how thin the cone is or how wide it is. It's a very, very useful light, and you can use it in lots and lots of different situations. But let's delete that now. The next type of lamp we're going to look at is the Hemley lamp. If we add that in and drag that up, the Hemley lamp is similar to the area light in that the Hemley lamp creates a half dome within which the light will be, and think of that as light that you'd see on a clouded day. If we render that out, we can see once again, very similar to the sunlight, the area light, the Hemley light even, is a constant light, so it emits light in all directions. It's not omni in the sense that it's within the cone, but it's a constant light, all lights even. And the main thing to notice about this is that the Hemley light doesn't actually cast any shadows, and there's no option to add shadows in under the Hemley lamp settings. We can only change the colour and the energy of it. Let's delete that light, and that brings us to the last light, which is the area light. If we add that in, the area light simulates what light would be if it was cast from a surface, for example a TV screen. If we drag this over here, we can have a look and quickly render that out. The Hemley light, the area light even, there we go. One thing to notice about the Hemley light, the area light, I keep saying Hemley light, the area light, is that it's quite high contrast when we open it. To change the contrast of the light, so the difference between lightness and darkness, we can use the gamma settings, and if we drag them down, you'll see that instead of being very overexposed, now the light's much more even. Okay, we've got the same sentences for them, that we've got the colour and the energy of the light, we've got the distance, the fall off, we can add shadow, so at the minute it's set to no shadow, we can add our ray shadow to make objects cast shadows. If we give that a quick look, we might be able to see it on that cube there. As it slowly renders out, there we go, we can just see it's appeared in the background. So that's useful for simulating stuff like screens and TVs in your game level. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Load up Blender and add some lights to your game level, and see if you can create more of a mood and atmosphere using lighting. Thank you very much for watching.